Well, Michael, thanks for joining us here tonight. And you're a real estate agent in California, but that's not the reason why you're on this show, right? You've been known for a guy that you find the worst seats in the house, right? The obstructed views. Tell us how that all started. Take us to the beginning of what's become, I'm sure, a social media, is really blown up on social media with the Instagram and Twitter and all the followers that you have that want to see these awful views at football stadiums.
Yeah, so first, thanks for having me on the show. The first time I found out about obstructed views, I was a victim myself. If you know history of baseball stadiums, Wrigley Field, Fenway Park, Old Tiger Stadium, these existed, but for me personally, I had never, living in California, experienced it myself. So there was a game in 2018, Washington State was hosting Oregon, and before the season, it didn't look like it was going to be a big game. And that was the year that Mike Leach was there with Gardner Minshew, and Oregon had Justin Herbert, and it ended up being the biggest game in Washington State history. And so I'm looking for a ticket that I thought was going to be $35, and every ticket is going for like $800-900 because Martin Stadium only holds around 35,000. It's not like 60,000-70,000, some of these bigger ones. So I found a single ticket that was $250, and I grabbed it. And I flew from California, went to Spokane, drove to Pullman, and when I got to my seat, there was a giant light pole in front of me, and I couldn't see much of the field at all. It wasn't advertised as obstructed. I filmed some plays from my seat, and you can see Minshew throwing a fade, and the receiver disappears behind the pole and comes out the other side with the ball. So it only hit me being a quote unquote victim. And since then, I've, as part of my travels going to games, I look for these seats at the stadiums.
Yeah. Did you put that first video on social media? What happened when that happened?
You know what? That was college football campus tour. That's obviously what I do. It was so much on it in its infancy. I didn't even really know what I was doing. So I think a couple of years later, I want to say 2021, I posted at it was the Arizona Wildcat Stadium, but it was for the bowl game that they had, the Arizona Bowl. And there's a seat where if you get in the corners, you can hardly see any of the field. And I just had this idea for somebody to take a photo from behind me to try to give this first person perspective. And what it did is a couple of things. One, it created a little bit of mystery of, is that person sitting there on their own? Do they realize they can move? Is that, college football campus tour? Is that Mike? So once people saw that, there's a little bit of a comedy element. And also, I try to call out the view percentage that you can see. So a football field's 100 yards. If you only can see 30 yards, that's a 30% view. So a couple of those. There was one at USC. They did a renovation where they added a press box and took out 15,000 seats. There were seats on the side of that. And there's a couple other, but yeah, that's when the videos and the photos started going on social media.
As you said, at CFB campus tours. So you started this just going to college football games. Why was it college football? What was it about that sport that attracted you to it?
So a couple of things. My dad played college football. He played 1 year at BYU. He was on the freshman team, so he didn't actually play. And then he transferred back to California to go to a school called University of Pacific in Stockton, California. They dropped football in the 90s, but I got to hear all the stories about playing in the Sun Bowl and playing against Don Coryell and Brian Sipe and at LSU. So that was part of it. But to be honest with you, living in California, we have a lot of our pro teams leave, and you don't have that in college. You'll never hear Alabama say, if you don't improve Bryant-Denny Stadium, we're moving to Mobile. That will never happen. But in California, we got the Chargers left San Diego, the Raiders went to Las Vegas, the Niners left San Francisco and went to Santa Clara. There's, the A's are leaving. So I just was kind of, as a kid, you show loyalty to your local teams. And then when they move away, you feel lost. So I was actually just looking for something, and college football kind of offered me the things that I was looking for. At the time, we didn't have big NIL money or anything. And in my mind, it felt more pure. And instead of, 32 NFL stadiums where 25 of them look the same, that I call them office buildings with our football fields in the middle, college football stadiums are unique and quirky. And Tiger Stadium, LSU started out with 12,000 seats. It has over 100,000 now. Knoxville had 3,200 at Neyland, and now it has 100,000. So over the course of the decades in these renovations, there are seats that we're talking about, some of these obstructed view seats, where all the renovations didn't like sync all the way together.
Yeah, you've been to all 138 FBS schools. Was that a goal of yours at the beginning of all this?
The goal, so yeah, the goal was to attend a game at every FBS school. And when I started in 2017, there were 130. And since then, we've had some additions. That took me 5 years to do. And I decided to, that fall, there was, we had COVID in 2020. And the FCS booted their season to the spring. And I ended up going to 29 games in the spring. So, we're all goal setters and we move the goalposts. So I decided to try to go after the FCS as well. But yes, my initial goal was try to hit all 130.
Yeah, 109 of 127 FCS right now for you as well. So is there an obstructed view everywhere that you go?
There's not. And, people want me to make a t-shirt that says my stadium does not have an obstructed view, kind of to give them credit. So no, stadiums usually open about 90 minutes or 2 hours before the game. So I will show up early. I'll walk around. Some of these places I've been to many times. I know where they are. It sounds funny, but you can also scout a stadium. There's a website called A View from Your Seat where people just load user photos that they've taken at games. And now what's happening, as you mentioned in the beginning, that it's a little bit of a phenomenon. And now people are tagging me at different events. I mean, I had somebody at church. There was a pillar in the way. They couldn't see the service all clearly. European soccer games, there's a overhang that's low. So, but yeah, there's not one at everyone, but I'm trying to find them if they are.
So you have your own little community, your own little following that they want to, I guess, one up you, I guess, right?
Well, they want to add to it. I don't know if they want to. It's funny how social media works, because you can do something that somebody else does and you don't even have to regulate it yourself, because your followers will tag you and say, hey, this person's doing your thing. And I'm never going to be somebody that tries to stop what other people are doing. But every year I do put out a obstructed views calendar, and I put the seat location there so people can go find it themselves. And I've had people go and take a photo at that seat and tag me. And you flip the mentality of, hey, we got to hide the seat, and it's an eyesore, to, hey, people want to actually go visit it and sit in it.
Sounds like this costs a lot of money to go to all these places, but has this become a profitable business for you as well?
I don't think profitable yet, but it's trending in the right direction. So, my goal has always just been to travel to games. And in 2024, I set a world record. I went to 104 games in a year. And when you go to a game, I say that I cover a stadium. So when you watch a broadcast, you got play-by-play, you got the analyst, you got the sideline reporter. Nobody's really telling you what's going on with the concessions, with the crowd, with the weather. And so those are the things that I do. So obstructed view is a part of it, but things are ramping up as far as some deals and some opportunities because of social media. But I've been in many articles where I say this costs about $35,000 to $45,000 a season. So it's not cheap.
So how many homes you have to sell as a real estate agent in California to cover the cost of this, side business for you?
Yeah. So I'm actually a real estate appraiser. So what I can do is from January and through September, I can work as much as possible. We work on volume. So if you do 10 appraisals in a month and they're 700 a pop, then that's 7,000. And obviously you can do more than that. And then when the fall comes, I try to do as many as I can while I'm on the road. October of last year, I went to 24 college football games and I did 22 appraisals at home. And that involved writing reports at Starbucks, on the airplane, at the student unions and all that. So, but yeah, it's, if you were to want to do this, either you have to have a really flexible job or be able to, work part-time. So it's a lot of appraisals. Let's just say that.
You mentioned in 2024, you went to 104 world record there, and you were on College Game Day for the national championship. What kind of experience? Did you ever imagine that you would end up on College Game Day when this whole thing started?
No. And what was funny is after the interview, it was like an hour before the national championship, and they threw it back to the desk, and somebody said to Kirk Herbstreit, they said, hey, we found a guy that travels more than you. So that was pretty cool. Some of the things that have happened are So it's called College Football Campus Tour. I consider myself a tour guide. If you go to a local landmark, sometimes you don't even want to hear the tour guide because you want to be able to explore on your own. And I think that the reason people are interested in me and what I do is because I'm bringing in them landmarks that they wouldn't be able to see on their own. So when you're going to unique stadiums like the Kibbe Dome in Idaho, or there's a stadium in South Dakota called O'Hara Stadium where they park 350 cars around during the game and tailgate from your seat. So all of a sudden you have this person who is showing you places you may not have ever seen before, but hopefully inspiring you to want to go and do these trips. So I think part of the reason people have, paid attention to what I'm doing is because I'm doing it on a high volume, and I'm also showing people stuff they may not see otherwise.
So you mentioned, the picture of you from behind. You travel with somebody else, or you just ask somebody in the stadium to help you out?
Yeah, so most people don't have the job flexibility to follow me around. Most places I go, either, I'm getting a media credential, so maybe I could work with people to get somebody to do it. But there are other times where I got to go up and ask people. And I was at Washington State this year to go back to the original, and I had to pay somebody $20 to take my photos. So it is what it is. But we're always, as long as people, I will say this, I try to ask road fans because home fans are a little bit sensitive, like you're making fun of their stadium. So yeah. I went to Oregon and Washington, and Oregon has an obstructed view, and I found a Washington fan, and I was like, hey, you want to make fun of Autzen? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So that worked.
Do you have a favorite obstructed view during your travels?
So there's a couple that are probably the most well-known. Boston College, there's one where there's a giant scoreboard in front of me, and at the time it wasn't really well received by the school, but that one it was so polarizing because you just have this photo of me sitting there and there's 4 or 5 rows blocking. USC is one where you only can see about the tip of the end zone, people like that. Buffalo, they have the play clock is in the end zone, so you just can't see anything. You're behind the play clock. And then one would be Memphis and one would be Nebraska. They both have pillars where, in the way they used to build stadiums in the old times, they used to have those load-bearing pillars all across. So there's like 40 of them. And so what I'll do is take the back photo, but also take a front photo, and you just see my feet peeking out of either side. So those are some of my favorites.
You mentioned sometimes they get mad at you. Have they stopped selling? Has anybody stopped selling those tickets because of you?
So I have seen people take off seat numbers. So I went to Memphis this year. They're redoing the Liberty Bowl. And when I went there a couple of years ago, there were seat numbers on the seat. And for me, if there's not a seat number, it's not a seat. I don't call it a seat. And when I went back there this year, I was like, okay, we're going to rerun the same stuff. And I looked, and there was there's a number 5 on the right of the pillar, and there's a number 7 on the left of the pillar, but there was no 6. So I'm not so much of a person where like I need content and I got to pump stuff out to throw people under the bus. So they fixed their stadium. This one that you're showing right here, this is the Cotton Bowl in Texas. I just dropped by for a high school championship game, and the Cotton Bowl is an old classic stadium, so you get those as well.
It's amazing that they would sell something like that. All right. So I'm a Syracuse grad. I worked with the football team as a student manager. Is there a bad seat in the house? Is there an obstructed view up there at Syracuse?
I don't think there's a bad seat in the Carrier Dome. I've seen a couple games up there. So usually I think the Carrier Dome is, I'm built around like 79 or 80. And so I'm going to call it a newer stadium because it's not the 1920s or 1930s. A lot of times the newer stadiums where they vet it a little bit better. So I think the Carrier Dome is clear. I need to go back, but I think it's clear.
And I appreciate you calling it the Carrier Dome, even though it's changed its name. It's the Carrier Dome to us old school Syracuse folks.
I forgot about it just because I can't even let it come into my consciousness. So, yeah.
How about JR? He played at NC State. What about in Raleigh? Is there a bad seat there?
It's funny. I went there at the end of last year. They played either a Thursday or Friday night game I went to, and at the back of the roadside, there's an area for disabled sitting, accommodations. And they have these like 2-seat rows behind the back of the bleachers but then to either side of them are the support beams for the upper level. You walk up these ramps, and so the ramps block and you can't see either or. And that's actually in my calendar too. So Carter Finley is a victim seat. Yep.
So you've gone to all these schools. What is there something next for you beyond college football?
That's a very good question. This last summer, I went to Alaska it's the northernmost football field in the United States. It's in a town called Utqiagvik, 350 miles above the Arctic Circle. They have this famous blue field, and it's a high school stadium. You only can fly in there. And I've seen people post these photos all the time. And I wanted to do it. So I went there last year, flew from San Francisco to Seattle to Anchorage to Utqiagvik, flew on the plane with the road team because no team can drive there. Everybody has to fly, and watched the game. It stayed light till 2:00 in the morning. They played the game at Friday at 7 p.m. It ended at 10 in perfect light. I went to bed at 2 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. I had to close the blinds in my hotel. So that was the thing that I really wanted to knock out. I still have 18 more left in the FCS. I would love to be the only person in the world to attend a game at every Division I school. I need the calendar dates to fall really well for me to get 18, because FCS typically only plays on Saturday. So it may take 2 more years. And then, I really like college hockey. It sounds kind of crazy, but I've been to Northeastern. Matthews Arena is the oldest hockey arena. They just closed that. I went to 2 games this year. I went to a football game at Delaware State, and then at night I went to a hockey game at Princeton, and that's 100-something-year-old barn, as they say. And Western Michigan has they won the national championship. They have a famous stadium. So I kind of like college hockey, but honestly, I've been thinking about putting out a tweet or a post like, what do you guys want me to do? What would be the next conquest? Because I'm definitely open to it.
Yeah, you mentioned Matthews Arena, historic Matthews Arena, the home for the Bruins and the Celtics at one point, and then now they're renovating that location there. When was the first time you were at one of these locations, one of these stadiums, and you were actually recognized for who you are and what you do? You remember that moment?
Man, well, sometimes people, I can't remember. I can tell you one that I can remember. I was at Bowling Green last year, and I could kind of see this woman like eyeballing me, and she, after I had the photos taken, I had some help. She's like, I didn't want to bother you, but are you the Obstructed View? I'm like, yes. And so, they'll comment on my posture, how I sit. I really try to sell it, pretend like, despite the fact that there's a pole or a scoreboard in front of you, you're dead set on intensely looking at it. So, but most of the time, if I find somebody that I know or they come up to me, like, it will almost be like, hey, while you're here, can you come help me with the Obstructed View? So I like to think that people follow my account for quality stadium photos and stuff, but there is a lot of people that just want to see the Obstructed Views.
Yeah, we see Tennessee there. You mentioned several stadiums. Is there one that's your favorite, that's just your best stadium to be a part of, not because of the Obstructed View, but just the environment and everything that goes into it?
Man, so there's a stadium that I consider the best environment. It also has an obstructed view. I went to Kyle Field, Texas A&M. I feel like is a real thing. The 12th man is a real thing. In 2018, I saw them play Clemson. Clemson was number 1. They had Kelly Bryant, and Trevor Lawrence was a freshman on the team. Texas A&M was unranked, and just the power of that crowd. They got cadets on the field throwing up arm signals to the second and third deck of the students up there. They're waving the towels. It just feels like you have another opponent you're playing against. And if it was 28-26, Clemson or Texas A&M scored. And if they would have got the 2-point conversion, would have gone to overtime. And they had no business being in that game, and it had to do with the crowd. So, and they also have another common obstructed view is people will put camera wells or buildings at the 50-yard line so they could film right on the 50, but these buildings kind of bump out a little bit and you'll have seats on the side. So they have an obstructed view on the top of the visitor's side at Kyle Field.
Again, you're in College Game Day. You're meeting some different people. Is there somebody famous that you've met that you're like, blew you away during this journey?
It's gonna be fun. So I met Reese Davis at on the field at the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago. He was incredibly nice, and somebody mentioned this is the guy who does obstructive views, and he said, "I think I've heard of that." So I'm gonna pretend like he knows all about it. This is gonna sound funny. Like, I met Big Red, the mascot for Western Kentucky, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but
Yes.
I had him do an obstructed view. So that they have SID, Jared McDonald over there, and 2 years ago, I pitched him this idea about, hey, people are sick of me sitting in these same seats. Could we get Big Red? And Big Red at the end of the first quarter comes up the stairs, and I'm talking to, like, I'm starstruck by Big Red, and I'm talking to him like he's a real person. I'm like, okay, Big Red, thank you so much for being a part of this. This won't take up much of your time. All you have to do is sit. And I'm giving him these instructions, and that was kind of fun to be able to do that. I felt bad because as soon as he was up there, all the kids swarmed, and it took him probably like a half a quarter to get down. So I also there's a wrestler with the WWE. His name is Big E, and he has 1 million followers on Instagram. I did the rate bowl, the guaranteed rate bowl at Chase Field in Arizona, and everybody knows about the pool that they have in right center for the Arizona Diamondbacks game. But when they have the bowl game, they put bleachers in front of the wall. And he sent me a message on Instagram saying, hey, I see that you're going to be at the game. I'm the ambassador for the game and the host. Can we do something? And so we had him sit by the pool looking at the obstructed view. And for me to talk to a guy, like, we got along, and it was pretty cool. And he said, if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would be doing what you're doing, because he's a former college football player. So those are a couple times you're like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Again, it sounds like you're a big college football fan when you're bringing up, Western Kentucky's, the mascot and everybody else there. But so, you mentioned also the day and age in college athletics that we're at. Is college football losing some of that pageantry and some of the allure of it with the current, state of college athletics, do you think?
I think so. I used to say, like, without hesitation, college football is the best sport in the world. And I still feel that way. I don't like neutral site games. You see the NFL is trying to play every game in Europe because they want a time slot early in the morning. We shouldn't care about that stuff. So I get the bowl games. I have no problem with bowl games, but when you sacrifice home games to go play at, the Atlanta Falcons Stadium, or you're playing in Charlotte, the Carolina Panthers, Bank of America, I don't care about that. We don't care about that. Some of the best things about college football is the stadiums and the history there. And in the NFL, you have Candlestick Park is gone, and Three Rivers Stadium gone, and Cowboy Stadium, and they ruined Soldier Field and all that. So that's why I gravitate towards college football. But I want players to get theirs. I don't want anybody, because my dad played college football, and he basically said all he did was eat peanut butter sandwiches, and it was hard to go to class, and he had to work and all. So I feel for that, but I gravitate towards FCS because there's not as much money involved. But what I tell people is, I really don't care if my team has the highest quality athlete. I just want to see Alabama run out on the field in Bryant-Denny Stadium wearing the crimson, playing against LSU, wearing the tiger eye, and I don't even care who's in there. So I may be different. It's hard when, I didn't graduate I went to a school that didn't have football, UC San Diego. So I'm not one of those people that is all about my alma mater winning a national championship all the time. But I really just like the stadium, the game, and the experience. And if you want to pay players and go for championships, I mean, there's another league above college football that will satisfy that need for you.
Yeah, you mentioned the FCS. Is that in your mind a little bit more purity of the game and the sport right now, even though the pageantry, I mean, it's still there, maybe just not at the level, maybe there's not the fireworks and everything else that you see on the Power 4, Power 5 schools.
Yeah, and there's a University of Montana, University of Idaho, South Dakota State, North Dakota State just went up. Like, these are the flagship universities of a state. So it's not, it's not like if it was the flagship of Texas and all that. But all these people there, if you attend Montana and you're in 6th grade and you get a visit from a Montana football player and you look at them and he's like, you could be like me someday, you want to go for that. And so I feel like it's more pure just because there's not as much money involved. I think that, for the last few years, there hasn't been as much parity because North Dakota State has taken over. But I feel like that they talk about how most schools or football programs below FBS are all profitable. And you just get an opportunity, the D3 schools, and really you sit down, you're not outpriced. It's not $200 for a seat. It's not $70 for parking. You can go and sit and get a good seat for $30. Concessions are reasonable. So I think people will throw out examples and they'll show me, they'll talk about a certain player at the FCS is getting a lot. But I think in general, it's more about the results for being a typical student athlete. And it's not so much jumping portal to portal for money. Not so much.
You mentioned your trip to Alaska earlier. I know JR's got a picture of the stadium there. And, I thought it was just Boise State that had the blue turf. So there's another place that has the Smurf turf. And look at that view right there. That's amazing.
Yeah, so the field is on a little peninsula, as you can see on one side, and that's actually my drone photo. I took that for the first time in my life. I took a drone up and flew it up there, and it turned out really well. So on one side of the field is a lake, and on the other side of the field is the Arctic Ocean. And you can see everything is dirt and gravel because it's too cold for them to have asphalt streets. They'll just crack and break. This town is probably like 4 or 5 square miles wide. And I went there early in the morning and took some of these photos. And it just has this lore. I think it was Sports Illustrated, and somewhere around 2015 did a documentary on the school. They're called Barrow, the Whalers. And they were playing basically on gravel. And there was a woman in Pennsylvania named Kathy Parker who saw the documentary, started a fundraiser, a GoFundMe, and she raised $1 million. And that's how they got this field. I will say that in person, there are a lot of divots and there's a lot of wear and tear on this field just because of the elements. You can kind of see a little bit of waves in the end zone there. So that being said, it's a huge improvement on playing on gravel. And I think that when you see the fall come this year, you're going to see more social media people make the trip because, in some ways I showed the blueprint on how to do it, and I hope they do.
Yeah, you certainly are a trendsetter in what you've done, and again, finding good views and bad views as well. But it's amazing what has started and what has become of this for you. Again, for those of people watching, people listening, give out how they can follow you on social media and see, what you're gonna do, some of the trips you're gonna take this year coming up.
Yeah, so it's at CFB Campus Tour, which is College Football Campus Tour. It's on Instagram, it's on Twitter. Everybody wants me to be on YouTube and TikTok. I'm a one-man operation. So if some tech person wants to come help me out and do that, then I will expand. But I really just try to show people all elements of college football, the good, the bad, the ugly, and present it in a neutral way so you can decide on yourself. I've been watching all the schedule releases. I have some of my, if the week 0 started today, I would be going a Thursday. I would be going to Lindenwood, which is in Missouri, on a Thursday night. Friday, I would be going to New Haven, which is a new FCS school in Connecticut that plays on a blue field also. And then a Saturday, I would be going to Lamar in Texas. Those are 3 new FCS stadiums, but everything can change. But at some point I'll start every week. I put out a flyer, publish my schedule. And, what's fun about having a college football season, even when you're not an athlete, but you can travel, you look forward to the season. And so you get the off season to prepare and work and do all this stuff. And then really kind of yearn for getting back on the road and doing it.
I was going to say, this is like a 12-month process for you, right? It's just the season doesn't end. You're always looking ahead to what's next, I guess.
Yeah, I'm so close to my goal, and what happens now is if there's only 18 teams that I need left, there's going to be, I think week 4, there's Alcorn State and Wofford. Those are 2 that I need. And if one of them, I'm only going to be able to go to one. I always try to go to 2 games on a Saturday, a noon game and a 7 game. But some of these FCS schools are so isolated. But what I'd really like to do is finish out the FCS and then have, this is my 10th year. It's going to be my 10th year doing it. I don't know how many big years I have left in me, but I would like to do at least 1 year where I give everybody what they want, which is go to every big game, try to go, to every rivalry game. Because I've been concentrating on home field so much, I've never done Army Navy. I've never done the Bayou Classic. I've never done the Red River Shootout. There's some of these new world's largest cocktail parties. So those are ones that I like to knock out. So the fun thing about college football is even when you've been to every FBS stadium, even when you set a world record and gone to 104 games, there are still bucket list items and conquests. Like literally the list is endless.
So you don't know how much longer you'll do this, or how
I
long you
think
keep going here?
I think it could be like the Friday, Saturday version. But what happens is, especially October when Conference USA plays the weekday CUSA games. And then when November comes, we get the MACtion games with MAC Conference. You have a game on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then if you do 2 on Saturday, that's 6 per week. And a lot of times, because I'm in California, I don't even go home because the Tuesday game is going to be in Buffalo. It's going to be in UMass. So you stay out on the road and you do that 3 or 4 weeks, and all of a sudden you're out there. So I will say this, that, it takes time to build up a following and audience. And once you say you're done, and you can't really just build. It would take a while to build it back up. So I'm very conscious of that. I just think that at some point there's going to be the reduced schedule version of college football campus tour. And it's not because I don't love it as much. It's just because, life has a way of rearing its ugly head in there every once in a while. And I got to be conscious of that as well.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people watching or listening to this are jealous for all the places you've been, all the environments you've been a part of. It's so unique, so great. And again, I can tell you're such a big college football fan. So it's a lot of passion that goes into this as well. It's not just something that you're doing on the side. It seems like there's a lot of passion for you.
Absolutely. This is on my brain. It's what I think about all the time. People have their passion. It could be, it could be their business. It could be their marriage and their family. There's a lot. This is the thing that just I think about all the time. And it really, I will say that one of the secondary benefits for me, before I even started traveling, I really hadn't been anywhere. And I took a trip to Colorado. One of my favorite movies is The Shining with Jack Nicholson. It's based on a book that Stephen King wrote, and it's based on him staying at a haunted hotel in Colorado. And so I did that trip. And before that trip, I didn't even want to go by myself. And, here we go, fast forward 10 years later, and I'm one of the most accomplished solo travelers out there, sleeping in rental cars, sleeping at the airport, driving 12 hours through the middle of the night. So not only do I love college football, do I have a passion for this hobby, but it improved my life. It made me more of a well-rounded person, a more brave person. And then I have friends all over the country through social media, and it's not just like your followers that you message with and you never meet. Like I actually meet these people in person. So the benefits that I've got from this, I mean, I can't even think about how much it's boosted my life. So I'm appreciative of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing for you, and can't wish you the best of luck to get all those FCS schools in and get that done. I guess you got to hope that nobody else goes up to FBS. What happens if that happens?
That's what's happening right now. So I mean, Chicago State is a new FCS school that just popped up out of nowhere. New Haven last year, UTRGV. The couple that have come up to FBS. I'm counting them because I've been to a playoff game at Sacramento State. I've been to the Dakota Marker game at NDSU. So what I would like to do is go back at some point and do an FBS game there. But if you're looking at this of the criteria, have I seen a game at NDSU? Have I seen a game at Sac State? I count it and I say yes, because Idaho was at FBS, and in 2018 they went down to FCS. So, but yeah, I've kind of joked to people that I'm like, I love FCS football, can we have like a 2-year or 3-year moratorium so I can knock this thing out? So, but yeah, it's hopefully we'll be able to knock them all out. But I think that if I don't get all 18 this year, I'll become a couple short, and if they add 2 or 3, I think that next year I'll be able to finish it out.
There you go. Yeah, that finish line keeps changing on you because of college athletics these days. So, Michael, this has been a lot of fun to hear your story. It's incredible. And again, I wish you the best of luck as you continue to reach your goals and see some great football and some great environments as well. Very jealous that you get to do that, but continued success with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And, I know that Syracuse, I always love weeknight games, and I know Syracuse has 1 or 2 weeknight games this fall. So I'm going to try to make one of them because I haven't been there since 2021. So maybe I'll run into you up there.
There you go. Sounds great. Sounds great.